The kiss still lingered on my lips long after I'd stepped out of Daniel's car. The rain had slowed to a mist, the city shimmering under the glow of the streetlights. I stood there for a moment, clutching my purse, heart still pounding from what had just happened. I knew I should have felt guilty. I knew I should have been thinking about boundaries, professionalism, and all the unspoken rules I'd just shattered. But all I could think about was him. The way his voice had dropped when he said my name. The way his hand had tightened around mine like he didn't want to let go. I told myself I'd go upstairs, take a shower, sleep it off, and wake up ready. To pretend none of it happened. But fate had other plans. The Cali had barely kicked off my heels when my phone rang. The name flashing on the screen stopped me cold. Melissa, Daniel's wife. I froze. I had never spoken to her directly, though I'd seen her at company events. Always elegant, always smiling, the perfect picture of a high society wife. She was the kind of woman who seemed untouchable, like her life was neatly tied up in gold ribbon dot, and now she was calling me. I answered, my voice tight. Hello? Hi, she said warmly, too warmly. I hope I'm not calling too late. No, not at all. My mind was racing. Why is she calling me? I was just wondering. Did you enjoy dinner tonight? My heart lurched. Dinner? Yes, she said, almost cheerfully. Daniel mentioned you'd be there. He said you've been such a help at the office lately. I told him it was sweet of him to include you. The knife hidden in her tone was friendly, but there was something underneath it, something sharp and deliberate. I'm glad he has someone like you around, she continued. It's so important for him to have people he can trust. The word trust landed like a blow. I mumbled something polite, and she didn't keep me long. Just before hanging up, she added, we should have lunch sometime, just us girls. When? The call ended, I sat there in my dark apartment, staring at the phone. My stomach was in knots. Did she know? Was she testing me? Or was this just coincidence? The next morning when I arrived at the office, Daniel was already in his office, the door closed. Normally, he greeted me with a nod or a quick comment. This time, nothing. Hours passed before he finally called me in. He didn't waste time. Melissa called you, didn't she? Yes, I admitted. What did she say? I told him, word for word. He listened without expression, but I noticed the way his jaw tightened. Daniel, I asked quietly, does she know? His eyes met mine, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw something almost like fear. She suspects, he said finally. And when Melissa suspects, she digs. The unbelievable twist. I thought that was the end of it. That maybe this was just about a jealous wife's suspicions. But I was wrong. Later that afternoon, I was called to the HR office. Waiting for me wasn't just the HR director, but Melissa. She was even more beautiful up close. Her tailored suit perfect. Her perfume subtle but expensive. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I just wanted to stop by and thank you in person for everything you've done for my husband, she said sweetly. The HR director shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure what was happening. Melissa leaned forward slightly. I hope you'll understand that Daniel is very important to me, and I take it personally when people forget that. The ultimatum when we were alone, she dropped the act. I don't care what happened between you two, she said in a low voice. But if you think you can replace me, you're wrong. I built him. I built everything he has. And I won't let some office fling undo that. Her words hit like ice water. I never. Don't. She cut me off. You're smart enough to know when you're playing with fire. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep your job. You're going to smile in meetings. And you're going to stay out of my husband's personal life. And if I don't? I asked before I could stop myself. Her smile returned. But it was all teeth. Then I'll make sure you don't have a job or a reputation left to protect. The final blow that night. Daniel called me. His voice was tense, almost desperate. I'm sorry. I never should have. Don't, I said. She came to see me. Silence. She's right about one thing, I continued. I am playing with fire. And I'm not sure I'm willing to burn for you. Daniel didn't argue. He just said my name softly, almost like a goodbye. The last image the next morning, I saw them together. Daniel and Melissa, stepping out of his car, laughing at something she'd said. From the outside, they looked perfect, untouchable. But as Daniel passed me in the hallway, our eyes met for the briefest moment. And in that look, I saw it. The memory of the rain, the touch of his hand, the kiss we'd shared. The thing neither of us could admit out loud. It was over. But it wasn't forgotten. And I knew, deep down, that this wasn't the last time our paths would cross in a way that would change everything. The rain hadn't stopped. If anything, it had grown heavier, drumming against the terrace roof in a steady, hypnotic rhythm. The rest of the city seemed far away. Just blurred lights through the shimmering glass. Daniel stood close. Too close for my heartbeat to settle into anything resembling normal. His words, "You've been on my mind, more than you should be," echoed in my head, looping over and over, until I wasn't sure if the pounding I heard was the rain or my own pulse. I should have stepped back. I should have smiled politely, made some excuse and walked away. But instead, I found myself holding his gaze, caught in that invisible current that had been pulling me toward him for months. The space between us didn't move right away. Neither did I. It was as though we were both waiting for permission, for courage, for something to snap the invisible threads stretched between us. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "You make it difficult, you know." "Difficult?" I managed, my own voice barely above a whisper, to keep things professional. His mouth curved in that slow, almost dangerous half smile. "And tonight, I'm not sure I want to." I swallowed hard, my thoughts scattering. The air between us seemed charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. The first touch, it was subtle, his hand brushing mine as he reached for the railing, but it might as well have been a spark, set to dry paper. The warmth of his skin lingered, and when his fingers slid just slightly over mine, I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned my hand over, just enough that our fingertips touched in a quiet, deliberate acknowledgement of what was happening. Daniel's gaze sharpened, his eyes darkening. "You're not stopping me. Do you want me to?" The smallest smile. Not even a little. The shift, the moment changed then, from hesitation to something inevitable. He stepped closer until the scent of his cologne mixed with the rain in the air, until I could feel the warmth of him despite the cool night breeze. "This isn't like me," he murmured, his thumb brushing lightly against the back of my hand. "I don't blur lines. But you..." He stopped. Like the rest of the sentence was too dangerous to speak aloud. "Me?" I prompted, my voice quieter than I intended. His eyes held mine, unwavering. "You make me want to." The kiss that almost happened, it wasn't a kiss, not yet, but it was close enough that every nerve in my body was ready for it. His hand rose, fingers brushing a damp strand of hair from my cheek, lingering just a moment too long. I could feel his breath, warm against my skin. My own lips parted in anticipation, and for a heartbeat, the world felt suspended. Then, the Sound of the terrace door opening broke the moment like glass shattering. The interruption. It was one of the junior executives, an eager 20-something who had clearly had too much wine. He apologized quickly, muttering something about forgetting his umbrella, before disappearing again. But the moment was gone, or at least, it had shifted again. Daniel's hand dropped from my face, though his eyes didn't leave mine. "We should go," he said. But there was something in his tone, an edge of frustration, or maybe restraint. The ride home, the driver held the car door open, and I slid into the leather seat, the scent of rain and his cologne still clinging to me. Daniel sat beside me, and for a while, neither of us spoke. The city lights flashed across his face in fragments, sharp angles, shadows, and brief moments of softness. I wondered what he was thinking. I wondered if he was trying to convince himself of something, or trying to stop himself from doing it. Halfway through the drive, he finally spoke. "Where do you live?" I hesitated, giving him the name of my neighborhood. The driver nodded, but Daniel leaned forward. "Take the long way." My pulse skipped. The long way wasn't about avoiding traffic. The confession. "You know this changes everything," I said quietly. "Does it have to?" "Yes." I met his gaze. "You're my boss." He studied me for a long moment before replying. "Maybe tonight I'm just a man who doesn't want the night to end." The words hit harder than they should have, and before I could stop myself, I admitted the truth. "I don't either." The unforgettable turn, the driver eventually pulled up in front of my building, but neither of us moved to get out. Daniel's hand rested on the seat between us, close enough that all I'd have to do was shift slightly, and we'd be touching again. And then I made a choice. I reached for his hand. Not hesitantly this time, but deliberately. His fingers closed around mine instantly, as though he'd been waiting for that signal all night. He leaned in, and this time, there was no interruption. His lips met mine, warm, firm, and certain, and everything else fell away. The kiss was not polite or cautious. It was the kind of kiss that made it clear this wasn't about curiosity or impulse. It was about wanting, needing. When we finally pulled back, my breath was uneven, my thoughts a tangle. "This is trouble," I whispered. "I know," he said, his thumb brushing against my lips. "But it's the kind I want." That was the night's turning point, the moment everything crossed a line we couldn't uncross. What I didn't know then was that this kiss, this choice, would lead to consequences neither of us could have imagined. The rain had been falling since late afternoon, the kind that doesn't crash against the windows but slips down in silver threads, soft enough to make the world outside seem dreamlike. I had been staring at my computer screen for hours, pretending to focus on the numbers in front of me, though my thoughts were drifting far from work. It had been one of those weeks where everything blurred together. Late nights, endless meetings, and the constant hum of office gossip. But tonight was different. Tonight, the company was hosting a private dinner for the executive team, and for some reason I still didn't fully understand. I'd been personally invited by him, my boss. Daniel Hayes. The name alone carried weight in the office. He wasn't just the CEO. He was the kind of man people talked about in half-whispered tones. Tall, impeccably dressed, and sharp-eyed. Daniel had a presence that could fill a room before he even spoke. He was the sort of leader who could inspire loyalty with a single nod, or crush someone's confidence with a single word. And yet, with me, there was something else. Something unspoken. The invitation, the email had arrived in my inbox the night before. Direct. Join me tomorrow night for the executive dinner. 7 p.m. at the Glass Room. DH. No explanation. No, please. No, if you're free. Just a statement, like he already knew I'd say yes. And of course I did. I'd never been to the glass room before, but everyone in the city knew it. An upscale rooftop restaurant with panoramic views, reserved only for the elite. It was the kind of place that didn't need to advertise. Its reputation was enough. I told myself it was work, that it was about networking, that it didn't mean anything. But the truth was, my heart had been beating a little too fast since the moment I read his message. The driver dropped me off right in front of the glittering glass entrance. Inside, the lighting was warm, casting a golden glow over the polished marble floors. I smoothed the front of my dress, simple, black, elegant, and tried to shake off the nervous energy curling inside me. When I saw him, I almost forgot to breathe. Daniel was already waiting near the bar, a glass of scotch in his hand. His charcoal suit fit him like it had been made for him, which, knowing him, it probably had. He didn't just wear clothes. He owned them, the way he seemed to own every space he stepped into. His eyes found mine immediately, and there it was, that half smile. Not the polite, public one he used for clients, but the rare, almost private curve of his lips that made me feel like the only person in the room. "You're early," he said when I reached him, his voice smooth, low, and dangerous. "You invited me. I wasn't going to keep you waiting." "Good." His gaze lingered on me for a second longer than necessary before he nodded toward the private dining area. "Come on. I want you to sit next to me tonight." The dinner table was long and set for 10. But the moment we sat down, it felt like the rest of the world faded. The other executives talked about market trends and quarterly reports. But Daniel's attention kept drifting back to me, asking my opinion, listening intently, making small comments that only I could hear. It was intoxicating. Every time his hand brushed mine when passing a dish or refilling my glass, a spark seemed to rush straight through me. And he knew it. I could see it in the faint glimmer in his eyes. At one point, during the second course, he leaned in close. "You're quieter than usual tonight," he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. "Just taking it all in." "Good," he said again, and the way he looked at me made my pulse quicken. "I like it when you pay attention." The rain outside by the time dessert arrived. The rain outside had turned heavier, streaking the glass walls with silver. The city lights blurred in the background, and something about it felt cinematic. People began to leave in pairs, their goodbyes echoing softly in the room. But Daniel didn't move. "Neither did I stay for another drink," he said, though it wasn't really a question. So we stayed. The room grew quieter, the distance between us shorter. Conversation shifted, no longer about work, but about music, travel, little pieces of our lives we'd never shared before. I found myself telling him things I didn't usually tell anyone, and the way he listened made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in a long time. The moment when the waiter finally brought the bill, Daniel didn't even glance at it, just signed, and stood. But instead of heading for the elevator, he looked toward the rain-slicked terrace. "Come outside with me." The air was cool and damp, and the sound of the rain against the glass was hypnotic. He stepped closer, his voice softer now. "You know," he said, "I didn't invite you tonight just because of work." My breath caught. "Then why?" His gaze held mine, unwavering. "Because you've been on my mind, more than you should be." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and electric. I didn't know what to say, or maybe I did, but I was too afraid to say it. All I knew was that my heart was pounding, and the night had just crossed into something I hadn't expected, and couldn't take back. That's where part one would end, right at the edge of the turning point. leaving the audience eager for part 2, took an unforgettable turn.